I guess they gave us the opportunity to talk today.
Yeah.
I said they can reach out to you too. Next week.
Yeah.
One-on-one.
Yeah.
How far now?
I did.
Yeah. I didn't see your work.
Onto
everything now. All the worker.
Well, we just learn work.
I want to learn. We'll come learn from us now. Forever learner.
I should say you whole program, so no shaking.
No program. I just have to go now. I guess we just freestyle, Abby.
Yeah, I don't did the forum already, so I be the Zoom call already.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh okay.
Yeah.
But it all starts.
Nobody there yet, but I thought the idea was that the moderator and two of us go enter like 8 o'clock.
Oh yeah, that's what I thought too, but I guess that.
Hi guys.
Hola.
Hey. The chairman himself.
How far now?
I'm good though.
Well done. I think that Kelechi remain.
Oh, okay.
Make I call him. How far now? How your clinic?
Yeah, we're here. We thank God. We're pushing it, as they say.
Killing it, better still.
Yeah.
Killing it.
You get what? Yeah.
Left.
Hey, Kelechi.
Hey, what's up?
We don't join now.
Yes.
We've joined the program. So we're waiting for you.
The whole thing was the whole contraption. It's not
now. Kitty.
It's not. Try to find better
Chidi, how
lighting.
far now? I think you're mute, Chidi, if you're speaking or if you're trying to speak.
Yeah, the light has to.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Good evening.
I sent you that letter. I sent
Okay, out.
Yeah, so yeah, if you just let me know what you think, if you feel like it's a good sort of thing, so that I can do the rest that way.
Okay, I'll look at the email, my email to see.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Josh.
Yeah, how y'all doing?
Yeah, go.
Sorry, let me try and get this. I'll be right back. Good evening, guys. Good evening. Oh, God, it's up. I greet you. Do you guys think we should?
Myself. All right, recording in progress. I'll introduce myself. I'll have the speakers introduce themselves, and then we're going to dive in. And this is somewhat free flowing. So after we've gotten some dialogue going with the speakers, I'll, of course, as Ugo said, you can put your questions in the chat, but we'll also give you an opportunity to let us hear your beautiful voice and to ask questions as well of the panelists and, maybe general conversation. So first off, I'm Kelechi Uzochukwu Ekpeagu, and I am at the University of Baltimore, in Baltimore, Maryland, where I teach statistics, urban policy, community development. My PhD is in public policy and public administration. And so that's sort of my background with the master's in public administration as well. But before that, like many Nigerian parents, my parents required that I get an engineering degree, lawyer, doctor, engineer. That's your choices. And I didn't have those choices. I was only told to be an engineer. So my first degree is a bachelor's in civil and environmental engineering. And I worked in that field for a while before I nearly pulled all of my hair out. Everything is not for everyone. And that's a wonderful field, just, not for me, but we can talk about all of those things as we talk about networking. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Chime. Dr. Chime Nnadi, please share who you are and tell us about yourself.
Sure, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. Really a huge pleasure to be here to share perspectives, to learn from each and every one of us, and to have conversations that potentially could help us advance our thinking in terms of how we fit, but also what we bring to the table in this union called America. My name is Chime Nnadi. I trained as a physician in Nigeria. I have spent additional time in the United Kingdom and here in the United States, getting additional degrees in public health, behavioral sciences, and a PhD in epidemiology and behavioral sciences at the University of Pittsburgh. I've gone on then to work as Epidemic Intelligence Service Officer at the CDC. This is the CDC's elite training program for individuals who end up becoming public health leaders here in the US, but also globally. Subsequently, I spent additional time working in different embassies in different parts of the world, advising countries on a variety of health and health-related issues, including global health security. I have since then transitioned to the pharmaceutical industry. I worked at Merck for 2 years as Global Medical Director for new vaccines and new products. And then I just recently took on a role at Johnson & Johnson as a Senior Medical Director and Head of US Vaccine Medical Affairs. In all of this, it's been a lot of learning, a lot of creating and leveraging networks, and of course, being supported by individuals both far and near. So I'm happy to share, but also keep an eye open or an ear open on what other things I could learn during this conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chime. Our second panelist is Chinedu Nweke. Where are you? I don't see you. There you are. So give us a quick introduction and then we'll dive right in.
Well, thanks, Kelechi, and thanks for the organizers of this event. Thanks for having me. My name is Chinedu Nweke. I'm a nephrologist in Acworth, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. And I trained medical school in Unilag. I was actually also in Baltimore for my MPH when I came to the US at Johns Hopkins, and then got my residency in New York, fellowship in Richmond, Virginia. Moved across state to the west side in New Mexico for a few years stints before moving to Georgia to start my private practice, which I've been doing now for 4 years. However, on the side, something I've been doing pretty much is angel investing and getting, I have a passion for angel investing, and I'm also passionate about bringing young people, young minds like us together, tap into our individual resources in such a way that we can leverage that to do things that traditionally and historically we've not been able to do. And I'm hoping that we would have an opportunity to expand those thoughts on this event today. Yes, that's me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we are going to be here for the next 45 minutes. 45 minutes or so, discussing why Black immigrants must network. Hopefully we do. You're here because you hopefully agree that we must network, just like so many other different groups in this country are networking and are making the most of their network, whether they're Korean or Chinese or Arab Americans or Jewish Americans. Everyone networks, right? And so we have our niche. We are Black immigrants from various parts of the world, from Africa, right? The whole continent of Africa has many countries, from different islands, whether you're Haitian or Jamaican or what have you, or maybe a Black Latino, Latina, right? And so you all matter, we all matter here. And we're here to see what we can do together. So with that, just a reminder of some of the things we're going to discuss, and it's on the flyer, but we're going to talk through climbing the corporate ladder, enhancing our journey as Black immigrants, positioning our youth for success, and advocating for our home countries. Okay, and so with that, I want to ask one question, just to get our feet wet. Chime and Chinedu, are you ready for this question? Don't be scared. The question is, how has networking helped you get to where you are today? Talk about your journey. You've kind of talked through some of the things you've done in life, but how has networking, has it helped you, and in what ways?
Yeah, Chime, I want to go first.
I'll let you go first, and then.
Okay. Yeah, certainly. I think networking is at the core of just our human existence. One thing that particularly sets us out as living beings is the ability to communicate and network. Yes. And essentially, the more you're able to leverage that or to participate in tapping into every other human resource around you, you just never essentially ever see boundaries. And from my point of view, it's not essentially an sort of like an active attitude toward networking. It's just something that it's ingrained, at every opportunity to meet the next person, to interact with the next person is a networking opportunity. And it's really just conversations and sharing thoughts I think that what's more important in that word network is the ability to freely, openly express, your thoughts to the next person, your ideas to the next person, and hopefully, the next person being receptive and also open to share their thoughts and ideas. So to answer your question directly, in so many ways, I can't really state one way, whether it's in getting past medical school or getting past, just setting up a practice, or in the various startups that I've been involved in. There's just more than a million ways that's helped. It's just the conversations just keep growing. Whenever there's a problem that needs to be solved, it's only a conversation away, and the more people have those conversations with, the easier it is to solve those problems.
I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chime?
Sure. So I'd like to start by kind of, thinking of, what networking is. So for me, I work in a business, and in terms of networking, we typically tend to think of networking as the process of establishing a mutually beneficial relationship with other business people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the key word there for us is business. It could be something as personal, it could be something as professional, but there is a goal, as far as networking is concerned. It's something you do intentionally, and it's something you have a focused, outcome or output, however well-defined or ill-defined it is, but there's typically a goal to it. In terms of how I've created networks, or how I've leveraged networks, I think I could go, just like so many of us, or every one of us on this call, we could go to, way back to primary school or nursery school for those of us who were fortunate to go to nursery school. But I'd like to tell a story of my first day in the US, and how that has essentially defined the trajectory of my career so far. So my first day here, I arrived Pittsburgh at about midnight, and then just after midnight, and then about 4 o'clock the same day, we were invited to a party. It was like a welcome event for new students, and we all kind of showed up. And then some guy walks over and just saying hello to the PhD student, and he says to me, what's your name? Where are you from? I told him to hazard a guess. He said, well, he thought I was Jamaican because, of course, I had a British accent a little bit, and of course, also had my Nigerian accent. Anyways, well, we got talking. He told me he had just come to the University of Pittsburgh as the chair of the department. And, I told him I was an MD. I studied public health in the United Kingdom, was more interested in focusing on my PhD here. And he said, oh, you seem like a perfect candidate for one very interesting fellowship at the CDC. It's called the Epidemic Intelligence Service Fellowship. I had never heard of Epidemic Intelligence Service Fellowship. Of course, CDC was one of those things you kind of heard about in the movies, or things you quoted definitions of, you copied definitions of certain things from when you were writing a paper. So I just wasn't essentially tuned into what he was talking about. So fast forward 3 years later, I was completing a PhD. I ran into the same guy, and he says, oh, do you have anything lined up? I was like, no, not yet. And he says, oh, okay. Why don't you show up at the office? So I went to his office, and I said, oh, I had told you about this program at the CDC, but I think you might be overqualified for that program. So why don't we get you a job at CDC? So he kind of emailed a couple people, and then they all came back, said, oh, it wasn't possible. But then, somehow I eventually got into the fellowship program. Well, I mean, through that fellowship program, of course, I had worked at the CDC. I had gone on to work at several US embassies around the world. And when I went to work at Merck, it was essentially somebody from that fellowship, who had graduated from that fellowship, that told me about opportunities at Merck. And for my current role, they were also looking for somebody who had gone through that fellowship.
Wow.
Even though it's really an industry position, but they wanted somebody with an EIS experience. So essentially, the 5-minute conversation that was quite not planned, just ran into somebody, just had just a casual conversation, has in effect been a major foundation for the career that I've had here over the last 10 years or so in the US.
Wow. That's amazing. That's beautiful. So one conversation has led to a decade or more of financially viable opportunities. Really.
Professional, let's say. Financially,
yes.
That's questionable.
So yeah, so when we think of networking, it's some people may think, I can't do that. That's not really me. But that's you, Kelechi, because you're an extrovert. Tell me some misunderstandings about networking. Is it only for the extroverts? Is it only for people who are in school? Is it only for people maybe with a need for a job or need for something? Or like, what are some of the misunderstandings? What are some things that are misunderstood about really what networking is all about?
Yeah, so I like to jump in on that. The way Chime talked about the defined and the ill-defined, on networking, and but I also see it from a point of view of where it's really about the way of life in terms of just being open. I think first of all, it starts with the individual, right? When you are open to yourself and open to others, then they can be open to you. So when you don't necessarily have to be an extrovert, to be able to tap into networks. However, we live in a world where what we do every day is about solving problems, right? And it simply is in navigating your everyday life, being open about those problems, such that you'll be able to fit into those who can provide the solutions. And problem does not necessarily mean bad things, because when we think problems, we think about solving problems, elevates us, takes us to the next level in everything that we do in life. So that's kind of like the way to approach that question, in the sense that just being open, honest, be free to communicate your thoughts, be free to communicate your ideas, be free to communicate your ideas. And in doing so, there are always, especially when we think about culturally, where, most of us here are Nigerians, we come from a culture where it seems as if you're putting your thoughts forward, somebody's going to tie it in the village or something like somebody's not, it's people are going to kill it. I see it totally, completely the reverse. Is there are more good people out there than there are bad people, even if you believe there are bad people. I don't necessarily believe that, but the thing is, you always have to find synergies, right, with people, with the next person. And in putting out your thoughts openly and freely, you will always connect with those people who also are thinking alike, or can provide solutions to the problems that we face every day. And again, I don't mean problems in negative ways. I see problems as opportunities.
Yeah, I just want to highlight some things that you said. Connecting. So networking is about connecting. You know, oh, I just lost the other thing, but you know, it's important that we connect as we think about our future here in this country, as we think about our offspring and their futures, as we think about expanding what we are doing here, leveraging our power here, our knowledge, our power, our finances, our political strength here. These are some of the things that, you know, I think is important that the network of Black immigrants is really trying to push and to make other Black immigrants in this country aware of the power that we have as a collective. So thank you for bringing that to those key words to this conversation. Chime.
So I think before I, you know, speak directly to that question, I want to kind of contextualize, you know, the place where we live. This entity called America, right? In many ways, is one that's full of ironies, right? America is the most open, you know, the place where you could have, you know, probably the best opportunities, probably way more opportunities than you would probably have in virtually every other country in the world, you know. But at the same time, you know, it's the same America that, you know, really discriminates, the same America that closes opportunities to, you know, immigrants or, you know, individuals from certain ethnicities or certain minority populations. But I think what I've learned from my own personal experience here is that we're all here to thrive. And I think if you kind of put in enough, you know, time, enough passion, enough intention to whatever thing that you want to achieve, America generally would give way. It doesn't mean that they will hand it to you, but they would generally give way for you to really get to, you know, to that thing that you want. And so how does networking then, you know, factor into this thing? I think we kind of talked about networking as, you know, this idea of having a focused or being quite very intentional about what you want, looking at, you know, what your end outcome is. So that could be one way you want to think about it. But the other thing is also about being, you know, being yourself, right? You know, so communicating, warmth, enthusiasm, focus, all of that, you know, your dreams, your aspirations, and then finding individuals who share those aspirations or who could potentially support those aspirations. Those are things that I think, whether it's on our day-to-day, the people that we meet and chat with, or just being more focused or more intentional by, you know, setting up time to speak to people. Those are things that we could definitely achieve. I would stop here for now, but I know there are, you know, certain specific examples that we can give to further throw light on this particular matter.
Yes, and let me just highlight what you said in case anyone yawned and missed it. Shared aspirations and supporting those aspirations. That's the benefit of a network. So you come together because you have shared goals, you have shared interests, and I think TheNOBI would be a great place to come together and support. So not just have shared aspirations, but to find a place where people can support you in those shared aspirations. A really great point, Chime. So before I ask my next question, I see there's a question on the chat for our panelists. In your experience, what are practical steps one can take to grow professionally and to position our children for success? Those are two very separate questions, I think, but you know, tackle it how you may. So how do we grow professionally and how do we position our children for success?
Well, if I might jump in on that one, yeah, I think, you know, I've spoken mostly about, you know, from, you know, a personal day-to-day sort of strategy. With TheNOBI, you know, is trying to sort of create a channel or formalize, you know, these networks in such a way that it goes beyond each one of us.
Yeah.
But I think at the core of it all is, what is it that, that's common to all of us? What is it? Is it just the color of our skin? Obviously not. But I think what's common to all of us really is the motherland. It's the culture. It's how we were raised, what we believed in, and what we want for our children. So, so certainly in many ways, it really is about having this organization that embodies all of those things that connects us, right? And using that channel to grow our base, grow our influence, grow our culture. And with that comes economic prosperity and political, prosperity as well. And then we can find diverse commonalities even in that, where, people who are passionate about, growing within that community, in this community that's foreign, or just leveraging that network even for the motherland. So whether it's it's promoting lingual competencies in our kids, or educational aspirations, or just finding commonalities. I think that focusing on those core things that unify us will eventually it just takes us to the next level. I don't know that I don't know, Chime might know this, but I don't know that there is a formula per se, but maybe there is, but I think when you look at other similar communities, where you look at the Jews, for example, I think ultimately what connects them is what's common to them. It's the culture and their beliefs.
So I think I'll add to it. I think, Chinedu, I think you articulated a number of really key and important points. I think the question we had was speaking to, in our experience, what are the practical steps that one could take? So I kind of think about it this way. So when we lived in Nigeria, for most of us who lived in Nigeria when we were born, or like when we grew up in our homes, we had this huge ambitions of what we're going to do or what we're going to achieve, if we touched down in America, right? A lot of us thought we were going to become billionaires or play basketball or make a lot of ton of money or become professors or all sorts of stuff. And then you get here and the reality of America hits you hard. So beyond the macro level aggression and suspicion about your capabilities, you also have on a day-to-day level, you also have like a lot of personal experiences that tell you that some of those things are not quite very achievable. So what do we do? So as humans, it's just not uncommon for us then to try to recalibrate what those visions are, what's really what we call what is achievable, right? So we sort of scale down on a lot of those ambitions and dreams that we had coming into America. But the truth is that if we actually decide to, one, get over ourselves. So it's important that we get over ourselves, get over our fears, get over, some of what Chinedu was talking about, like holding, a lot to ourselves, or some of the excuses that we make. I mean, some of these things are, quite very genuine, quite very important. People say, I don't have money, can't borrow money, have, immigration status issues. There are a whole host of things that could potentially hold you back. The good thing, though, is that for every single one of those reasons or excuses, we can overcome them. We can overcome them sometimes internally by leveraging our inner strengths, but more often than not, by actually having conversations such as the one that we're having this evening, and then following up on things or activities that help us get from where we are, point A or point B, to where we desire to be. I think the other thing we want to kind of think about is how do we invest in ourselves? And so when we think about investing in ourselves, it goes beyond, buying fancy cars or, living in an expensive mansion. Investing in ourselves essentially speaks to the idea that America values meritocracy a lot. So we can say anything that we want, but it's often the case that our white peers might generally have like a certain qualification and they put it on the table, and we bring several times that qualification. Well, we may not necessarily always get the job, but at least we get some sort of insight or some sort of interview or some sort of like somebody who says, well, you know what, I think this person is fairly qualified for this position. And that's just in the sort of the more formal sectors of the economy. There are other things that people can do. People do businesses. We can succeed in that way, in that pathway also. But all of these things again go back to two key fundamental things. One is investing in yourself, and the second thing is getting over yourself, getting over your fears, getting over your things that you feel like hold you back. Have a conversation, open, honest, transparent conversation about those issues with people that you really trust. More often than not, the needs that you have are actually available, or rather the solutions to your needs are actually available within one or two layers of the network that you find yourself in.
That's good. Within one or two layers of the network you've built for yourself. So build a network, start today. If I may chime in on this question, because I like the question, and I'm thinking of a way to maybe tie the two together. And as they were talking, I immediately thought of my undergraduate years at in an engineering program in North Carolina, and how I kept in touch with the department chair through, like, after I graduated, I kept in touch with him. He became a friend to me, a mentor always, right? And, I graduated at least a decade ago. Don't want to give out my age, but maybe 2 decades ago, possibly, who knows? Anyway, but all of a sudden, my network I need to utilize it because I have family in Nigeria who are also looking to come to the US to get an advanced degree. And I tapped into a network that I never thought I was gonna, I saw him as a friend, a family friend now, and I tapped into my old, engineering chair and said, hey, my cousin, has a need to, he wants to study, environmental agricultural engineering here. And long story short, it was really like this, because I had a network that could work for me. And now that network that's working for me trickles down to somebody else. My cousin, just months later, not even a year, not even almost 6 months, he is in the United States, free tuition. He's got an assistantship working under my chair, who is now in Texas. He's not even in North Carolina anymore, but we've kept in touch all through these years. He is the chair or dean of the school, college, or whatever. And he's like, yeah, sure, come on, bring him on. But the thing about it is, yes, he got to do a master's degree. Yes, he got to come to the United States. Yes, he got all of that for free. And he's working a 6-figure job because, trusty little big cousin got him, worked her network, right, to get him here. But bigger than that is that he, sort of what Chime is saying, he believed in himself. He didn't have crappy grades he was top of his class. He was doing well, even in his undergraduate years, when he had no mind to think of, oh, I'm going to get an advanced degree, or I'm going to come to the US. I need to stay competitive, but he had that mindset. And so it didn't require too much out of me to say, Dr. So-and-so, please allow my cousin to come. He was like, oh, the guy's got great grades, bring him on. So your network can work for you, but you got to work for yourself first also. So as we're thinking about growing professionally, as Ugo asked the question about, and thinking about how to position our children for success, and I don't think any of us may have that issue, because Black immigrants are very serious about education in this country. So positioning our children, we're always making sure that they're top, that they're getting good grades. And if we're not doing that, that's something that we must do, because our network is not going to allow, unfortunately, what white and other networks allow. You can get through and be a George W. Bush and become president, and you barely passed your classes. As a Black person, you have to be closer to an Obama, where you were head of every class. And so positioning our children to understand that you have to do better, you have to excel. So that's what my thoughts are on that matter. Chime, you want to chime in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to chime in. I think somebody is also flagging part of this issue.
Okay, good.
Vivian is asking if this should be about education and acquiring degrees versus financial networking.
Yeah, we're going to get to the bigger picture too. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say in terms of for our children, I want to say the society that we live in and the trajectory that all of us have taken to get to where we are, I think have required a lot more fighting, a lot more brawn and less brain, a lot more luck, a lot more God's favor. I think we could do better for our kids, honestly. And that's kind of, starting early to identify, what their interests are, what their sort of, what moves them, what motivates them. And, what I see here, for where I work is some people have worked at Johnson & Johnson for 3 generations. So the grandfather, and, they're all still there, by the way. Their grandfather, this is maybe the 45th year at Johnson & Johnson. And for the father is the 20th year at Johnson & Johnson. And, for this, the 3rd generation, maybe it's like 1 or 2 years out of college or grad school. And so what you find is that a lot of people start early to kind of identify what their kids are interested in, and then figuring out, how to position them for success in those areas. That's certainly something that we have to kind of start doing. Whilst we encourage our kids to, do the best they can in terms of acquiring good grades and all that, that's really for, if you want to fight the regular fight. I'll tell you a story about something that happened very recently. My boss at the office, his vice president, his son recently started college, and he's going to a college, very respected college in the Midwest. And he's telling me about this, and he's sounding disappointed. And he's saying, this America is coming to a place where only the wealthy, ultra wealthy. This guy is a vice president. I mean, he carts away more than, I don't know, close to $2 million every year. But he's telling me he doesn't consider himself wealthy, saying that this America is now about, wealthy people really planning their kids' lives and then sending them to Ivy League schools and all that. But what was striking though is I told him, look, your son is going to a good school, everything will be fine. And he says to me, well, if you're looking at it from the perspective of, having a 40-year career and throwing Hail Mary passes every now and again, yes. But if you're looking at it from the more organized, moving from one elite opportunity to another elite opportunity, that may not necessarily pan out in this case. So there are different levels of, connectivity, different levels of success. I think we should aim to get our kids in those places where, whatever they choose to do, that we are, in a position to kind of support them, to shoot and aim as high as possible. And we can, I think this is a conversation we can focus on, how do we even essentially pave the path for our kids moving forward. I think this networking certainly is a key part of it. Getting involved in finding internships and fellowships early on while you're still in college or secondary school, those are critical because, you know, for you to get into anywhere, they typically will say, oh, do you have experience in this or that, even to get into medical school. You know, that will still be like an experience you need to kind of gain. So let's kind of think about this from, you know, what do our kids want to do and who within our networks can we have a conversation on how they can, you know, leverage some of the existing networks that we have to advance their careers.
I agree. I want to try to tie in, oh, and let me just give everyone that's here, if you can see in the chat, the link to our website. I'm sending it because I don't want to forget to talk about this because it's really important. As we're thinking about networking and as we're talking about these opportunities on this website, you can go and you can, if you have opportunities that you'd like other Black immigrants to know about, this is the place to do that. So you want to go there, you want to, you know, let someone, let the network know that I've got a job, right? That I'm posting, and I'd like for one of our young people to take that position, right? Because many of us have positioned ourselves to places where we are now the hiring managers. And so we want to, you know, if you want to be utilized, then this is where to do that. If you own a business and you want your business to be supported by us, the Black immigrants, you want to post coupons. If this you can use this as your Groupon site, essentially, and let people know about your business. Let us, the Black immigrants of the United States, let us grow your business. Let us be your network that supports your aspirations. So, please take a look at that website. It's just for you. And if there's something that's not there, let us know so that we can update it with what's needed to make this network work. To touch on, okay, Vivian asked the question, what matters more, degrees or financial networking? Degrees or financial networking?
Well, if I may take that, I mean, everything matters. It's really all depends on the individual, you know. Success or just thriving can be viewed from many different angles, and there's no right or wrong, you know. For example, I consider myself, you know, obviously, I've been a physician, and everything that I've done, studied and read, and MPH, and all of that. But my passion really it's the opposite. It's in businesses, in small businesses, is in tech, you know, finance, you know, and trading. That's my passion. You know, that's what I that's what I love to do, and that's what I love to do with other people as well. So in answering one of the questions, one of the comments that came up, you know, is what's more important? Yeah. Ultimately, everything is important. You know, when you look at the whole society and societal needs and impact of any group, you know, if you're good on one side and weak on the other side, you know, you're not going to be able to get, you know, the opportunities like certain other groups would. So we need to grow our networks, you know, financially, politically, socially, culturally, you know, all different. And we need all sorts of people and all sorts of interests to do that. However, you know, for me to just also talk about, I think what TheNOBI is set up to do, or it stands for, in my way, it's really the modern sort of village meetings that used to exist back home. You know, I don't know, I live in the North and we traveled a lot in the North. You know, my dad was in the military, so Kano, Kaduna, each city that we went to, there was an Okuzu meeting or one, you know, an Anambra meeting. You know, I think that this gives us the opportunity to reenact that in a more modern, you know, way, obviously with the help of technology, to start to really, essentially, we're not reinventing the wheel, do the same things that they were doing. You know, have goals, have committed goals and values, you know, targets, you know, be socially responsive. And through doing all of that, you know, you connect. you connect academically, professionally, in trade, you just connect. Again, these things are not rocket science. It's really all about conversations, when we have such platforms that are consistent, and the members, the goals are clear, then people will connect and will grow. You'd find people who have interest in real estate. I'm aware that if a few people in the group already who's already doing that, connect and grow your network. Mm-hmm. You find people who have interest in banking, and you find people in academia who would naturally connect just based on what we do. So that it then gives us an opportunity to really see how we can connect and network and leverage each other's strengths, as a whole.
Thank you. So I want to open it up to our audience. If you have a burning question that you'd like for one of us to answer, all of us to just sort of discuss, throw back and forth, please feel free at this time to ask that question. And again, it can be about climbing the corporate ladder, about enhancing our journey here in the US as Black immigrants, positioning our youth, and advocating for our home countries, because God knows there are issues in our countries, and the US, if you see how the US advocates or goes in to help support the causes of different countries, Afghanistan being the most prominent example right now, how can we leverage our power here in the US to help our countries? So these are just kind of things that we're thinking through with our role here as the network of Black immigrants. So it's open to you for asking questions.
Hey, Kelechi, it's Cheetah. I have a quick question. Great panel, and thank you to both the gentlemen for sharing their experience. You guys have had a quite inspiring journey. My question is, you guys have mentioned a few times political networks. Does TheNOBI intend to create a political platform that we plan to support or lobby for at a larger scale, or like what? I don't know if you guys have fleshed that out yet. I'm just curious since it came up a few times.
Excellent question, and the answer is resoundingly yes. But of course, this is the early stages of that, working to create a collective first that's large enough, strong enough, committed enough to really have weight when we go stomping somewhere, right? when we want to make political or social noise. Does anybody else want to chime in?
With a question?
No, regarding that question, but we can answer the next question. I just wanted to make sure that somebody else didn't want to answer that. Okay.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, is that Obi?
Yeah, this is Obi, and I thank you guys and all the panelists. Let me go straight to my question about networking. I have been challenged a few times in the community by younger people in the community about the absence of networks particularly. So I was very excited when I saw this program. And my question to the panelists is, do you think that we as a community network enough? If we don't, what are the impediments and what do we do about it?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm not sure how to really measure the amount of networks that we do, but we generally come from disadvantaged backgrounds, right? Just by virtue of our origins, and this is just generalizing. And it's obviously, it's been said even earlier on in this call, is whereas some people have a standard CV, And for us, you need to have 10 times more than that CV to get the same position. So yeah, I think that it's just what it is. We just have to do a little bit more in every aspect. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. For some reason we also have the capabilities to do so. So long story short, I mean, we are a minority. We'll definitely have challenges. The networks are stronger. The strengths of networks are in their numbers. So by generally being minorities that are sparsely spread across, I think where the difference now is especially in the last few years is the social networks. Yes, social networks gives us the opportunity to through technology to now be able to enhance our networking even better, and channel in such a way that we are able to achieve or achieve those things that would have been hindered us prior to the advent of the ability to network socially or through technology. So yes, there's work to be done. I think that in our hearts, I think that most of us would like to network more. But I think we only really just need to tap into the tools that are out there. My personal experience really, it's really, a tool as simple as WhatsApp is where every one of us belong to multiple different WhatsApp groups. But, just a well-coordinated WhatsApp group, at least in my own experience, have been able to put together groups of people like us. And I've done fantastic things that, is beyond our imagination, talking to, going into millions of dollars. Now, while these may be high-risk things that that I particularly may have been involved in, but that just a testament to what the tools that is readily available in our hands we can leverage to achieve some of these things that we intend to achieve now and for the future.
So Obi, I'll give that a shot. So you're asking if we are networked enough or not. So I think, typically somebody would say, so relative to what, right? So what is the yardstick for measuring how well networked or not very well networked we are? But I think when you think of networks and the ones that have been very productive, there are certain characteristics that people kind of tend to see in those networks. So think of the Jewish community networks. One is that they've been here for quite a long time, so they are much more better settled. So you can think of that as a potential advantage. The other thing you want to also think about is that there's something that they all rally around, right? So there's a common thing, a common faith, a common commitment to something. And you go back to the 1960s and 1970s in Nigeria, post the Civil War. There were all these Igwebike Social Club, People's Club, all of those networks, essentially, again, because there was something that they rallied around, something that they kind of, wanted to do, community development, supporting each other, get through the post-war ravages. So here in the US, I think, we have to also ask ourselves these same questions. What do we really rally around? Generally speaking, I think we are just still a fairly new migrant group in the US, but is there something that brings us together? And perhaps it's a common language, or perhaps it's a common love of something, or perhaps it's something, we're doing in Nigeria together. So there are some factors, I think, that potentially may not be quite supportive of us being a much more cohesive group than we could potentially be. The good thing, though, is that we are beginning to realize that all of that hasn't served us very well, and there's a lot more that we can do together, which is the idea of all of this TheNOBI initiative, these conversations that we're having this evening, again, to say, what have we done very well, and what have we not thrived at, and what exactly can we do to kind of bring ourselves together. I have a lot of admiration for young people, and I actually see young people as the future. I mean, a lot of us here have a pretty much set trajectory for most of what we want to do in life. But imagine somebody in their, somebody who's a teenager, somebody in their early 20s. Those are people I feel like, could benefit extremely, extremely well from, a lot of these conversations that we're having tonight. Of course, all of us here would continue to benefit, but imagine what transformational, idea, networks could have for those, or transformational impacts that those networks could have for those, for those up and coming generation of our people.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the answers. I really appreciate the points that you guys brought out. And this question arose actually a few months ago after the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was launched. I did a mini post with your name on it to celebrate the accomplishment that you were part of it. And some of the responses that I got were around the lines of, wow, so we have these well-connected people in our community and nobody knows who they are and nobody knows how to reach them. And I hope that some of those guys who asked those questions are here tonight listening, because I shared the flyer for this meeting in all the groups that I belong to. But honestly, I think that we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
One more sentence, which is a good example, is a UIU, which is a global organization now, virtually. But if you go to any UIU gathering, the people you see now will not be there for 6 months. So where are the older people, and why are we not doing more to reach back and pull the younger ones? I think that is something that I want to point out, that we have work to do. We need to be conscious of it and try to create a forum or a mechanism to reach back and pull the younger ones, so that we know that we have a stronger community. Thank you guys again for putting the program together.
Thank you.
I just want to add real quick to your comment. It is the thing about, I think that when we look at every player, I think everyone is important, right? It's not just in this case, Chime at Johnson & Johnson, who was involved, is the person who was asking the question. Have you put yourself out there, to be in a situation where somebody will actually look out for you? Because, trying to use the right words is, everyone has a role. Everyone is important. Everyone has a role. Everyone is important. No matter where you think anybody is in life, in terms of strata or level, everyone has a role. Everyone is important. And wherever you are, you need to be visible. You need to be out there. You need to be open, to speak, to engage. And that's really where the network starts. Because in Chime's experience, when he came into, his first night in the US, it was the other person that approached him. And if that person never did, then that person only approached him because he was available. It's kind of like the point I'm trying to make. So yeah, I hope I'm passing that message across, but I just wanted to add that.
So
to clarify, please, sorry,
okay.
I am not trying to blame anybody or assign blame. I'm just saying that with my experience working in the community with our younger demographic, we have a need. I have realized that we have a need, and I've spoken, this is not the first time I'm talking about it. I see the need in the community to reach back a little bit and try to pull the younger ones forward with us. At least let them know that we have people who are connected and who can help. Because if they come and they don't see any of us and they don't know, then they don't know. So I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just trying to see that, you know, we should recognize that we have work to do.
Yeah.
May I add something in response to Mr. Njoku's comment? Part of what we're trying to do, if you go on the website, is to create opportunities to mentor the younger ones and create an avenue where they can tap into most of the people on here, to the extent that most of the people on here have time and are willing to do it, right? And that's why this conversation is important. So as we come across young people who want to be mentees, we can get them to sign up on the website. And from within ourselves, even if folks are not registered to be part of this network, within ourselves, we know what most of our peers are into, and we can talk to them about being mentors to the younger people. But the website absolutely has a section for mentors, for folks who want to be mentors to sign up, and for folks who want to be mentees to sign up as well.
So for the, just for the sake of time, I wanted to point out that we have passed our hour mark. We can continue to have this rich conversation because I know there was one more question in the chat that I think is important for us to note as we're here working on creating a network and leveraging our resources. When you know, in the past and possibly in our respective countries, when we do leverage resources, you know, this is the point that Emeka is making, that we fall into some corrupt situations, selfishness, embezzlement, and so on. And so that is something that we, you know, we really are challenged with in our respective countries. And, you know, we're hopeful that that's not something that, you know, transcends over in the United States, where we have a bunch of educated professionals that are here to do good. But the question is, how can our generation do better? How can we push past these, you know, previous ways of doing things in our respective countries? And how do we maybe even market ourselves as having pushed past that? Because maybe some people, when they hear Black immigrants, when they hear whatever their country is from, they think, nope, not getting involved because of this, that, or the other, these negative, you know, things that come with being associated with our respective countries. So how do we push through that, and how do we do better?
Well, I think that we certainly, with every organization, with every agenda, you know, everything has to grow, everything has to be nurtured. You know, I think that we don't have to have all the answers. I think what needs to be done, or what has already been done, is a first step. It's getting started. It's getting started, essentially, and you know, having people who are committed. It seems like, you know, we have committed people behind TheNOBI to do the work and to do this work selflessly. You know, it's clear that these types of initiatives, you know, are things that you know, are usually done from the heart. You know, it's genuine, it's selfless, it enhances the community, you know, and ultimately it goes around, you know. to everyone's benefit and even beyond us, because in my mind, these things we're trying to achieve, it's really not for us. It's for those who have come after us. So the younger ones and so on and so forth. So my short answer is getting started.
I agree.
That's it.
I agree. And if I may just give one example, I think about the organization that I'm a part of, Selfless for Africa, and one might say the word Africa and selfless, why would you put those two things together? And really, am I giving money to that type of an organization? And I know firsthand, having been treasurer of the organization for a while, and no longer doing that, but still continuing to contribute my hard-earned money to this organization and seeing all the good that they do. This is, and Chinedu has tons of experience in this arena, but there are organizations that are there for good, and it can have Black behind its name, it can have African behind its name, and it can be here for a decade, 2, 3 decades, and has never been never heard a negative, corrupt, embezzlement, selfish type of thing, story behind its name. So it exists, and those organizations, if you look for them, will prove that just because you are Black, just because you are African, doesn't mean that you will automatically find your way into corruption. No, it doesn't mean that.
I mean, corruption knows no color.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, there's corruption in the United States. But Chime, you wanted to say something?
No, I'm actually thrilled, for a number of reasons. I think, first of all, in as much as we can think about the things that haven't worked well or the things that are not particularly working very well now, we have to also kind of think that it's not necessarily in every group that you find, where you have 40 people, 40 to 45 people on a call, and pretty much everybody here is a professional.
Yeah.
So whilst we may look to people who are senators or people who are industry titans or whatever, all of us here are big assets, however you want to define it. So all of us can help one, all of us could benefit from being helped by another. Yeah. And so the question then, I think, which is what we're trying to get at, is how do we continue to ensure that there is an awareness and an openness to this collaboration, to this networking, in such a way that advances cause in the short term, but also in the longer term as well, be of benefit to the upcoming generation, and particularly for our community as we move forward together in this entity called America.
Awesome. So I think that's a great way to wrap this up. I do want to reiterate, please, that you take a look at the website and see, as they say, get in where you fit in. Do you want to be a mentor? Do you want to grow your business? Do you need a job? Or do you just want to be part of a growing community of people that have similar interests as you? Networking is absolutely important. If this last hour didn't prove to you, we'll have another one. Trust and believe, we've got more coming. So just always be on the lookout because we've got new topics and so on, but definitely go to our website, join the network, and hopefully we'll see you again. Any closing thoughts from our panel or from our behind the scenes moderator, Ugo, anyone?
I think Edozie says he's had his hand up for a bit.
I didn't, okay, sorry. Edozie?
My bad, I was only just saying thank you to the panelists and
okay.
for an excellent delivery. Nothing more to add.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a wonderful.
I just want to end by saying, again, I mean, generally passionate about, us as a people coming together to do things that are usually bigger than individuals. So whatever it is you have interest in, especially from a business point of view, I think 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 people can do it better. We kind of have to develop that mindset that requires putting systems and structures in place.
Yeah.
That then makes those types of interactions or become less of a hassle. And I think that in our community, we struggle to go past that. And but we need to. We need to be able to take it to the next level from taking this networking to the next level. Whereas NOBI appears to be more social conscious, uplifting, those below us and our kids and all of that. But on the other angle, especially where I particularly have interest in is coming together as a group to do incremental businesses. And I don't know if there's any other network that fits that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So for me, I think I'm really thrilled that we've started this conversation. I'm even more excited that about the quality of people that we have here. Again, these are, extremely highly qualified, highly accomplished people. We have just one more number on the lock to essentially, just be on a rocket flying off of this particular part of the world. And that's this networking issue. I think once we get it right, and I do believe that over time we're going to get it right, people in this US will be very surprised at what Nigerians can actually achieve and what
it's not just Nigerians.
Black immigrants can
there we
achieve
go.
here in the US.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. We're powerful, and the world needs to know that. So let's do this. Let's do this. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Kelechi.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Ugo, please, Ugo, can you come here and call me back?
Okay.
Thank you.
Man.
Dr. Chime, well done, sir.
All my people. I think there were like 5 Uniports doctors on this group just this night. And I haven't...
I greet all of you now.
Well done.
Chief Chime, I present cephalic.
Oga Peter, how far now?
Good, sir.
Wait, I didn't even know you were in this US to start with. How far now? How did you get our NOBI invite?
So someone posted it on, we have a group trying to mentor medical students trying to get into US residency.
Okay.
And also like immigrants that come into trying to get into residency. And I'm a kidney doctor here. So somebody just posted that, and I think I joined in late though. So I only got the last part, but I'm so impressed.
That's fascinating, actually, too. Now, you go give me your number now, so that I'll probably
sure. It's 617.
How's Chinedu now? That's your wife's name, right?
Nelly is my wife's name.
Yes. Okay. Well,
yeah.
Was it not Chinedu that she shortened to Nelly?
Well, she was Chinyere. Chinyere is her middle name. Maybe that's the name you're trying to remember.
Okay.
Yeah. I just
started
sending it to you, but I'm happy to give it to everyone on the media.
Okay. Yeah. So, and somebody also texted me. I don't recall who they are, but they said they also went to Uniport, and we used to take anatomy classes together.
Okay.
Yeah, Peter, where are you based?
I'm in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis. Okay. Are you a nephrologist?
Yes.
Oh, okay, nice. Nice to meet you. I'm also a nephrologist here in Atlanta.
In Atlanta? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to meet you.
My wife is a nephrologist. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Okay.
Where is she at?
She's in Philly now. She was a professor at Emory for 3 years before we moved up here.
Oh. Okay, so you're in Philly now?
Yeah, I'm in Philadelphia now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice. Congratulations. Nelly's training to become an anesthesiologist.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
All right. Cool. Well, I'm excited about TheNOBI. I guess we'll all eventually connect through the platform and put our resources together, to make a difference in our community. So
absolutely,
a lot we can do together. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. I'll call you, Peter. I'll call you.
All right. Good night.
Yeah. Bye now.